In classroom communication, we can see that in communication, we can study, we can learn about communication through notes, like types, definitions, concepts. But in exams, most of the questions, uh, like applied questions, like concepts applied in a situation, concept applied in classroom, like that. So we can understand the concepts, but we must be able to logically think about which type of communication is better, and what was the question asked, exact question was asked. So we can first we will understand the basic concepts. This completely theory. This might be boring, but we have to understand the basic concepts. Then we can move forward to previous year questions, and also I have taken new questions from June 2024 examinations. So we must understand the basic concepts, then we can move further. So communication here, it's basically a process of making message understood by satisfying the needs and ego sets of the receiver. Meeting. So communication, we have more definitions of communication. Communication is the exchange of ideas and meaning between two persons or groups. Signs, expressions, utterance, gestures, sounds, noise are the silent form of languages used by humans. We will see the types here. The communication means the exchange of idea. It could be verbal, non-verbal. It involves sender, message, medium, channel, receiver, response, or feedback. Berlo explains communication as sender, receiver, model. In this here, sender stands for stimulus and receiver stands for response. In SR model, it is sender, receiver, or stimulus, receiver. Then this explanation of Berlo was later extended to sender, message, channel, receiver. If the question is given stimulus, if the question is given stimulus, then it is still means sender. Stimulus and sender both are same. Sender encodes the message, like we have to formulate the message first through our thought process from our brain. That's the formulation of message. So that means encoding. So we are not sharing the information, we are just making it up. We are thinking, we are making the information. That is message formulation, known as encoding. So sender encodes the message and send it to the receiver through a medium. Receivers decode the message and send feedback through a medium. So encoding means formulation of message, like how we are, like how we are going to send it. Okay, the other person, how we are thinking that other person able to receive it. Like, and then decode means that receiver receives the information, but how he conceives the message. Okay, it may be due to barrier, it may differ due to cultural differences, language differences. So the decoding can be differ uh, from encoding. Okay, maybe I was meant something, like I am encoding a message meaning something, but the receiver can decode it as a different message. Then objective of communication include that through the communication with people or through other medium, people keep themselves updated. People participate actively in social life. Information flow from top to bottom by communicating through, and also bottom to up is also the upward communication. Teacher, example, teacher teaching classes or family instructing the younger member. That's the information flow. Better communication leads to better coordination between society. Coordination is very necessary to keep the society bond. And then society is made up of people, and people's behavior is controlled by society through communication. Society's culture is maintained through effective communication. By communication only, society understand each other's culture, belief, and each other's way of life. It helps in communicating the goals and targets that can be achieved. It creates new ideas, spread awareness about important issues. It improves decision making abilities. So the characteristics of communication involves, it is a dynamic process. It is a dynamic process, not a static one. It's a dynamic process. In SR model, it's a static. In SR model, it is static. That's like we don't, in SMCR model, we expect feedback. But in SR model, we don't expect feedback. We just uh, give information. Like communication includes sharing or exchanging of information, and it is a continuous process. And it is a continuous process. It's effective only when it is two-way communication. Feedback is an important component of explanation. So it is cyclic. So, so it is like cyclic. So we share an information and then we get the feedback. Again, we formulate another information. Like sender sends the message, receiver responds to the message, and then sender again respond to the message. So the process is continuous and it is cyclic and it is two-way communication. For effective communication, sender and receiver cooperation is necessary, and it is communication is effective when it is done in same language. When it is done in same language, responders' interest in the matter of communication is most important. For example, any discussion about politics will be well received by the one who is interested in politics. For example, like in classrooms, if I tell a story or if I made a story about some cinema, anything real life issues. If I discuss real life issues, students are much interested. Then when I'm taking classes, so their interest is basically about their interest is math. So to keep myself updated, I teach through meme creations like that. Communication is also done through gestures like rolling of eyes, excitement shown on face, nodding of heads, and many other forms of gestures. Then context, where it is happened, when the communication is happening, where the communication is happening, timing of communication is also important. Context, it includes place where the communication is taking place, familiarity with each other, like friends, colleagues, and environment categorized by formality or informality in the time context. On what day or in morning. For example, in the morning, we may pray like that's a communication, and in the evening we think of uh, family going home, and in the night during night we think of something about either we may recall our memory or we can think about future, and that can affect our attitude. Like if it is fear, then it affects our attitude and our activities and our health also. Communication should be clear and concise. So concise here means short, but at the same time uh, it holds the same meaning of the message. And we have two kinds of communication, formal and informal. We have many types of communication, broadly categorized into formal and informal communication. Formal related to communication in organizations and institutions, office, either internally or internal communication in organization or external communication in organization. For example, a circular A circular made in an institution is internal, and an advertisement made in the institution is external communication. A memo is an internal one, or a video, promotional video is for external communication. Like that. And then informal communication is with the friends, families, and colleagues. And communication could be direct and indirect. Direct is face to face, and direct and indirect is through any other medium. So in direct, we are going to see one face, and we are going to make our statements. And if it is indirect, we can either use through letters, emails, messages. Those are indirect communication. And then informal communication is mostly preferred, and it also involves gossips. And then classroom communication, according to Cole and Chan, process of class communication includes message formulation, message encoding, and the message encoding by the sender, message transmission through medium, any medium, and then message decoding by the receiver, feedback given by the receiver. Through effective communication, we need is the most important common language. Common language is the most important component of effective communication. Context, intentions, and emotions of the message is also very crucial. Like if I take a class without any context, or also like my dialect, my volume level, and also flow of information. If my flow of information is same, then students will fall asleep. So I have to make diet my I have to change my dialect to raising my voice and lower my voice, then make gestures. If I just stand like that in front of the students, they just ignore me and they think of me as a wall, just standing a wall. So context, intentions, and the emotions of the message is also very crucial. Message should be clear between the sender and to the receiver. Message should be simple, short, and concrete. There should not be any delay in receiving feedback. Sender should have empathy, and important one, empathy towards the receiver. Like there is a quote saying that you have to put yourself in others' shoes. We have to think about others. So then only we can understand others' emotion. Then we can give our messages. And also the place. If I don't have empathy towards my students, then I can just give instructions. They might follow and might not follow. And also places wherein uh, marriage calls completely different between a marriage call, birthday party, and a condolence. So we must have an empathy with the receiver, and then gestures and other non-verbal techniques facilitate conversation between sender and the receiver. Those are importance of important components and factors like characteristics of effective communication. These are the 7 C's of communication. Message should be message should have communication should have conciseness, concreteness, correctness, consideration, clarity, courtesy, and then completeness. It must provide complete message. And there are 4 S's of communication, which is strength, sincerity, shortness, and simplicity. Nowadays, there after 2010, they're asking, they never ask this kind of question, but still, they're going back to the root. They're going back to the basics. So we should also remember this. Then, what are the characteristics of the communication? Communication is social interaction through messages. It is basic process. Its basic process is intrapersonal. Intrapersonal, which is I am communicating myself, individualistic. For example, my thought process, my thinking. Before sharing ideas, I am thinking how it works, and how I am making myself, and then praying to the God and grieving myself, anger, like that. That's intrapersonal. Communication is constructed for people and by the people. Communication is the language of life. It creates a common pool of ideas and strengthens the feeling of togetherness. It serves to contribute the liberation of mankind from want, oppression, and fear, and to unite it in community and communication, solidarity, and understanding. The types of communication involves intrapersonal communication. Means I am just like I am talking to myself. I am thinking about myself like that. Communication inside an individual, practically every one of the occasions, including conversing with oneself, turning into oneself, and relating one to oneself. It includes individual reflection, mediation, contemplation, and even praying to God. We conceptualize and formulate our thoughts, our ideas before we actually indulge in overt communication. That's intrapersonal communication. Important. All should have interpersonal communication. Then interpersonal communication, also named as dyadic communication, also known as dyadic communication. It is an all-inclusive type of close and personal routine communication between two individuals, both sending and receiving the message. It may be formal, informal, verbal, non-verbal. It takes place anywhere by means of words, sound, facial expression, gestures, and postures. How I am postures here, how I am standing, like tying my hands, like that. It is an effective communication process as you can get immediate feedback. It has greater scope of grapevine. Grapevine means gossips. It have a greater interpersonal communication have greater scope for gossips. Due to proximity between the sender and the receiver, interpersonal communication has emotional appeal. Then group communication, it's a quite common in day-to-day life. Uh, here is a number of people that has common goal, interact with one another to attain the goal, recognize one another's existence, and see themselves as a part of a group. Characteristics of the group in relation to individual are on the basics of membership, dependence, acceptance, attraction, volition, innate pressure, change, and flexibility in leadership. Group communication is influenced by several heterogeneous factors like age, sex, education, economic backgrounds, social backgrounds, linguistics background, religious thoughts, national, regional, and racial differences. Group communication is viewed as effective as it gives a chance to coordinate connection among the individuals of the group, and it helps in bringing about changes in attitudes and beliefs. Then mass communication, broad communication, which are most part thought to be synchronous. Most thought to be synchronous. At different levels, the mass communication has three characteristics. The audience is large and heterogeneous. Here, heterogeneous means different kind of peoples with various backgrounds, social, economic, and various factors. Radio and television are assumed to be have a larger audience in comparison to the newspaper, radio, television, newspaper, news channels, WhatsApp. We have WhatsApp channels as well, YouTube Instagram influencers. The source is a foundation or a gathering of individuals. Some kind of mechanism is used to reproduce information. It is also termed as mediated communication. Channels for mass communication are termed as mass media. Example of mass media includes radio, TV, newspapers, magazines, and films. Communication on the basis of explanation. Types of communication on the basis of explanation. First one is verbal communication without words. The language transmitted verbally by making use of words such as oral and written communication. And then verbal communication is further divided into oral communication and then written communication. In oral communications, words verbally expressed words are utilized. It includes face-to-face conversations, speech, telephonic conversations, video, radio, television, and voice over the internet. It can be influenced by pitch and volume, where I am pitching and how much volume that I am putting. If I am anger, my volume is too much louder. If I am happy, also it may be too much happy. If I am sad, my volume should be low, like that. And the of verbal rate of words that I am producing, and then how many words that are coming uh, out of me, and then clarity in speaking and articulation, where the information, well, if I am excited, I would raise my voice. So like if I don't know anything, then I would just like make everything up like that. So these are the important influence factors of oral communication. And then written communication, written signs, using written signs and symbols both in printed and in handwritten forms. Pictures, graphs are used to complement the written text. Pictures, graphs used to complement the written text. The communicator's writing skill, style, and knowledge of grammar affect the quality of the message. The message can be transmitted through email, a letter, or a report, or a memo, or like an advertisement, a poster, and more. Most commonly used communication in a business organization, written communication. Non-verbal communication, the procedure of communication through sending and accepting silent messages. There is a famous quote: action speaks louder than words. Here, action, here in non-verbal communication, it stands for body movements. If we ask someone, they might say that, if I ask someone, are you okay? Then the other person would say mostly, I'm fine, but they might not. So, through their gestures, through their facial expressions, we can understand that he is not okay. Like this communication is all about body language of the speaker and does not make use of words. Communication other than body language, posture, tone of voice, or facial expressions is called non-verbal communication. Okay. Communication classified based on purpose and style. Here it is formal communication, then informal communication. Okay. Then communication at the basis of direction, either vertical, lateral, horizontal communication, upward, downward communication, mostly in organizations. Vertical communication, functionally, it's fundamentally formal communication. This can be upwards and downwards. For example, a circular is a downward communication from the principal. If the message comes from principal, it is downwards communication. If the message, if I am giving a feedback or I am suggesting something, then it is upward communication. Then lateral communication, communication with individual at the same level in the chain of command that are companies and partners is named as lateral communication. This may join in both formal and informal communication. So here lateral communication may happen between colleagues. And then diagonal communication, the colleagues and with the same level of position or diagonal communication is effective as hierarchical building are removed and there is free flow of information cutting across positions or status. Mostly, for example, if we take as educational institution, In diagonal communication, mostly happens in some like uh, when the faculties are moving outside, like staff welfare club conducting activities to break ice breaking, some ice breaking activities, fun activities that happened. Diagonal communication happens there. There are no status, no questions. It encourages building relationship between the superior and the subordinates by conducting ice breaking. These are the eight stages of communication. Obviously, the sender encodes the message through a channel, and the receiver decodes the message, and the receiver gives the feedback, and it happens again. If there is a noise, we need to understand what is the noise, and we have to remove the barriers, communication barriers. Okay, official message encoding, transmission, decoding, understanding, receiver, response, feedback, any noise. Noise would be anything: physical barrier, psychological barrier, mechanical barriers, and you will see that. These are the communication barriers. First one, physical barriers. Most obvious communication barriers to effective communication. It includes noise, closed doors, faculty, equipment used for communication, closed cabins, etc. Sometimes in large office, the physical separation between various employees combined with faculty equipment may result in severe communication. Like due to physical infrastructure or anything or sound coming from outside, tractor sound or wind sound, and then light, excessive light inside the classroom, um, uh, power shutdowns, like that. மறுபடியும் அதே மாதிரி பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிருச்சு. Okay. This is a technical barrier that I am having. Technical barriers. Any kind of technical issues that hinders communication or disturb the message is a technical barrier, just like what happened now. Damage or weakness in communication channels like mobile signals, loss, or internet failures are examples of technical barriers. The software and hardware used for communication process also sometimes experience failure and this creates technical barriers. And then semantic barriers, like me- meaning of something, meaning the actual meaning is not interpreted properly. That is semantic. The semantic barrier in communication defined as misunderstanding and interpretation of meaning which restrict effective communication. Like frame window, like frame window. Everyone have a frame by their backgrounds, like by their experience. Like uh, someone might think that uh, he is he is coming from that uh, area. He is coming from that district, so he might be that way. Like that. Statements like women are bad drivers, and then men cannot drive. So those are the semantic difference in dialect, cultural differences, word pronunciation difference, and spelling errors are the main causes of semantic barriers. There are two types of semantic barrier to communication: denotative barriers, which are based on and caused by direct meaning of a word. Connotative barriers refers to differences in the meaning of the defined word. So, for example, denotative meaning barrier means if there is a word home, okay, home. If I am saying that home, I am saying that the physical form of home, then that's a connotative meaning. Sorry, that's a denotative meaning. If it also have the same connotative meaning, meaning that home means if I am saying that I'm home, maybe I am in my village, maybe maybe my first uh, college, uh, maybe I'm with my friends, maybe uh, I wanted to belong somewhere. That's the different meaning. So that's the differences. In addition to its exact or lexical meaning, words also appear implied meaning called connotative meaning. So there are words can be can be understand differently. For example, um, terrific, terrific. And then I see this like it's terrific means good actually. Terrific means good, but terrific also implies that it is bad. It's terrific. How if someone asks how was the match, I will say terrific. Terrific actually meant bad. It is actually meant bad. But sometimes if I say that terrific, it's actually good, like very good. So that's kind of uh, semantic meaning, semantic values. And then organizational values due to the structure and environment of the organization. It involves interaction between the persons who are at different levels, causes behind them or hierarchical structure, stringent rules and policies of the organization, complex organizational structures, and so on. If the superior in an organization is not listening to the views of subordination due to hierarchical structure, then this will create an organizational barrier in communication. Almost most of us who have experienced organizational behavior at least once in our lifetime. So then psychological barriers or emotional barriers refers to the psychological state of a person, opinion, attitude, status consciousness, emotions of a person that deeply affects the ability to communicate. Communication will not be effective if the communicator acts judgmental and jumps to conclusion without even understanding the complete message. It is not good for both sender and receiver. This happens mostly between friends and husband and wife, maybe. Emotional state can pose a damaging barrier to communication. If the sender is angry when he or she sends a message, it will affect the way in which the receiver interprets the message. Okay, like when we are angry, we pour words. Okay. Social barriers, the difference in social status or rank of the communicator and audience results to social barriers of communication. The channel of communication between father and son or boss and employee. Those are social barriers. It can get influenced by social status of these people. I have many examples, but it's not in the book. And cultural barriers, our cultural values and practice significantly influence our behavior, acts, language, rules, rituals. These behavior, these behavioral barriers among people sometimes create some gaps or disturbance during the communication. And for example, would be Korean living in Canada. The most significant cultural barriers would be language. If the Korean doesn't know how to speak English or French, it would be at most impossible to communicate with anyone. When a particular group gets stereotyped on the basics of their ethnicity, gender, race, religion, it results in communication barriers due to cultural reasons. Uh, there's just 2 or 3 months ago, uh, actor Ajit Kumar made a statement like that. Caste and religions made peoples hate each other. You never meant you never met in your life like that because of stereotyping. Like what happening in new movies, like uh, in every movie, almost all the movies, teachers are shown as like buffoons. Students can do anything in the classroom, and also colleges, how they are showing colleges and dressing sense in the movies. It is actually stereotyping. When I see old movies happen released in 90s, I was seeing that students in from colleges always on the roadside, and what they are doing is, but what actually happened in the college is completely different. So like that. Then psychological barriers results from it may result from physical state of communication or receiver. A person with weak hearing capability will not be able to understand the message delivered to. If a person with short-term memory loss is unable to convey the message after a while, then he or she forgets the message and hence the communication. If the voice quality of the speaker in a meeting is not clear, then the audience will remain unaware about the points discussed. These are the physiological, sorry, physiological barriers. And then perceptual barriers. Perception about the same things and our understanding of anything literally depends on our perception, how we see things. We all have our own preferences, values, attitudes, origins, and life experience that act as perceptual filters on our experiences of people, event, and information. A person with critical perspective always look at things happening around him from a critical point of view, and this determines his understanding of any kind of communication he does. Like people's, I've seen people, some people always tend to think negative. If I ask something, let's do something, why? There is no need for it. It will end like that one. If A happens, it definitely will lead to Z, like that. That's perceptual barriers. Then attitude barriers, way of feeling or acting towards a person, thing, or a situation. Barriers to communication may result from personality conflicts, poor management, resistance to change, or lack of motivation. Attitude can affect communication in both positive and also in negative. Pleasant, respectful, upbeat attitudes throughout an office improve upward and downward communication, which increases morale and productivity. So, attitude, yes. So, again, we have classroom communication, uh, sharing of information and the experience that take place. The classroom communication is developing knowledge, application, analysis, and evaluation abilities. It is useful when it is two-way. One-way communication hinders students' ability to ask questions and clear their doubts. Feedback plays an important role. It is used to plan future activities and make improvements. Again, classroom communication, same as before. How a message is formulated, how a message is encoded, how a message is transmitted, how message decoded, feedback, and then nuts. Okay. Mostly the question, if at least one question would be asked from classroom communication about barriers and also in what situation, what a teacher should do, and what kind of techniques a teacher would do to make a student understand the concept, and how can you improve the communication to for each student. Like if I have a students with 60 room full of students, 60 students, then all 60 students are completely different. Yeah, in my experience, I have 55 students. All the 55 students are different, and I have to carry each one of them in different way. Okay. How effectively teacher have to manage the classroom communication? Teacher must encourage students' participation by making them listen actively. Teacher must understand facial expression of students because some students may not be able to share their queries and problems with the teacher. Teacher must ask questions to the students to test their understanding. Teacher should always motivate students and develop cordial relationship with them. Teacher communication should be precise and clear. Teachers should always take a pause or short break after finishing the topic. Humor helps the students to enjoy the class. Therefore, a teacher should be humorous if possible. Students should be encouraged to ask questions, and the teacher should not listen, insult them, or criticize them because it discourages the students from asking questions. A teacher should not be biased towards any students. For teachers, all students must be equal. A teacher should be empathetic towards students. And then again, verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written, teacher and class communications, teacher-student communication, student-teacher communication, student-student communication, then student-class communication, and some of the important key terms. Narrow casting is when the service is streamed for a limited people. For example, only subscribers of online classroom program could watch all structured courses. Narrow casting, just like what we are doing, and also for in YouTube also we have uh, premium content only for those who have subscribed. And then broadcasting, it is not restriction on who would watch. Okay, like what we are doing now. And then synchronous communication, message is streamed in real time, like live cricket matches, chat room discussion, video conference, voice calls. And then asynchronous communication, newspapers. The message is delayed here. In asynchronous, message is not delayed, it is live. Asynchronous communication, message is delayed. For example, email, letters, newspapers. And semiotics. Semiotics is a branch of linguistics which studies how sign are interpreted in different languages. Semiotics. And then kinesis. In the
Sir, how an email will be coming under asynchronous communication, sir? Is that message is
uh, yes, message is delayed means like I got this email at for example, okay, I got this email about FTP Faculty Development Program at uh, principal office. Okay, 2:20 p.m. Okay, I got this email at 2:20 p.m. I opened this email after 4 p.m. Okay, so it is not synchronous. I am not seeing this email at the same time that I received. I may
okay?
see now or later tomorrow. Maybe someone else may instruct me that uh, we have FTP. Just open your email like that.
Okay, sir. Thank
And
you.
also
Now,
WhatsApp messages also. Uh, 2 days before I received a message at 2:51 p.m. that it says we have a meeting at 3 p.m. I seen the message at 3:30 p.m. Then only I ran into the meeting. Not synchronous. Right? Not
okay, sir.
synchronous.
Thank you.
Okay. And then kinesis. In this, certain body movements and gestures serve as a form of non-verbal communication. Movements and gestures. Our body movements and gestures. It's kinesis, study of body movements and gestures. And then mass media and social. Here in mass media, we have uh, television, newspaper, radio, internet, computer. Now, many applications to email the message like uh, that guy, Twitter owner, Elon Musk. Elon Musk says that I don't think it's true, but Elon Musk supports fully supports Donald Trump during US election. Elon Musk fully, completely supports Donald Trump. So entire Twitter is almost work for him to make him as a president, like that. So mass media. So messages saying that nowadays the messages what we are receiving is altered, modified, maybe fake. Then types of media, traditional media here, such as folk dance. Like in each tradition, each culture, we have some traditional media like songs, not property, like that. And then print media. Uh, this was a brainchild of Jonas Gutenberg, who facilitated the printed media, includes newspaper, books, journals, periodicals, and magazines, and electronic media, including TV, cinema, and radio. New media, which includes World Wide Web through internet, social networking sites, podcasts, e-magazines, and journals. The characteristics of mass media makes sense only when it involves large audience. This audience can either be homogeneous or direct. And another important aspect about communication is that it's seen as tool for cultural reproduction. It takes place rapidly and seamlessly, sometimes very informative and educative. It may be a cost-effective communication. There is no privacy. Messages are shared publicly and for everyone. It's meant for immediate consumption. It can be said that it's a one-way communication. Although audience does respond to communication, but not response is usually delayed or invisible. Like we are sending feedback to radio station or someone from TV news or YouTube channels. They're they are making comments, and it's a dynamic process. More specifically, after the emergence of new media, it's disseminated. Message is disseminated through mass communications are usually regulated by owners of the information, maybe government, media house, business groups, and educational institutions. Influence of mass media on society. It have limited effects theory argues that media has an insignificant role as people usually read and watch stuff based on their belief system, their experience, and knowledge. This theory was tested in 1950s, the time when we had limited media options, so a lot of people are also critical of the perspective. Limited effects theory means it still applies. For example, YouTube, Twitter, searching, uh, Google searching, what we are searching. If I search anything from my personal account, it will always shows up, shows results about completely technical, completely like through in the form of computer terms, like, and also what we are watching, what we are consuming, Instagram reels. It will show suggestions only how much what we are interested in. Again, it is perspective. Even though we have many media options, but we still focuses on our consumers. For example, if a student is if not a student, some younger 2K kids, we say 2K kids, they mostly get songs, memes, like that. But I would mostly get uh, business news, technical technology news, and the exam related. Like that. And then class dominant theory. This theory states that media projects the opinion and views of dominant class, usually some economic elite or political elite. This is true to some extent. This makes the relationship between mass media and society a complex web of economic relations. Media also becomes a tool for political mobilization in the hands of power cities. It is somewhat true. Then cultural theory uh, was later development in the combination of previous theories. This theory argues that audience doesn't play a passive role in message reproduction. In fact, people interact with the media actively and create meaning as their own cultural and social context. So we would, most cases, we would react like dislikes and not watching something. Like it is also, and then right true. Some of the functions of the mass media play in society is information dissemination, tool for socialization, entertainment purposes. It used to develop communication, to reproduce to improve cultural reproduction, and then political conciseness. Nowadays, like either print media or visual media or in YouTube, somewhat is biased. Even peoples are biased since Facebook, we have an option to since Facebook makes the options of makes you can make your account, create an account, and you can make money out of your social media accounts. Almost everyone becomes biased in some manner. So I know for a fact that people will get comment. People always take sides during anything. If you have any opinion, if you post it on Facebook or anything, then immediately you would get react. Either someone will oppress you or someone will support you. But always nowadays people taking sides because of the money that involves during in the influence to using social media nowadays. And then new media again, it's a kind of electronic communication that became available due to innovation in computer technology. We can call it as newspaper, blogs, music, email, streaming apps, and podcasts. Uh, Nowadays, online page paper, which is an old media, podcast, smartphone application are entirely new media. Now, some of the new media here is Wikipedia, websites, then blogs, streaming audio and video like Spotify. Spotify have blocked all the modified versions of their app because they are almost lost 20 million or $20 billion due to the model applications. So if I use Spotify, I have to buy premium options to play the songs without any pass or without any ad. But it's a platform that produces huge amount of songs nowadays. Then you can see Amazon Prime subscription, Netflix, Wink Music is completed. Wink Music is not available now. And then YouTube, Netflix, and sorry, Geo Cinema, Hotstar, Geo Cinema, Hotstar, and then many applications like available, and then chat rooms available, email, many services available now, social media, Instagram, and then many kind of social medias available here. Then mobile applications for communications is available, and DVD. It's an old media now. DVD and CD-ROM media, virtual reality classrooms. We already seen virtual labs in the digital initiative. Virtual lab is an example here. And then internet telephony, voice over. If even I don't have tower, even I don't have my geo network, I can able to make a call through internet. That's internet over protocol, SOP. Okay. And then difference between traditional and uh, traditional media and not the new media. Here in traditional media, non-technical in nature, it is less expensive. Its reach is limited. Communication taken place directly in the form of live audience. It is culturally rigid. And the new media is technical in nature. It is expensive because it needs investment. It reaches a large number of people. Message is broadcasted. It could be live or recorded, and it is flexible. And also that's the end of communication. And also we might uh, need to work with previous year questions on how these concepts are applied, how the questions have been asked. Okay. In tomorrow's session, we will check how the concepts have been interpreted in questions, how we can able to solve. Okay. So that's it for today. We'll meet tomorrow. Okay.